Let's talk to William Yarwood, spokesperson at Taxpayers Alliance. William, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. Thanks for having me on the show, as always.
Not at all. Good to see you. We want to hear your reaction to Nigel Farage's pledge, basically, to do what everyone wants him to do, which is to save a load of money, 236 or 334 billion pounds off the taxpayers' exchequer, in order to stop paying benefits to so many foreign people.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think this is quite a bold policy proposal, which I think the party should actually listen up about, because I think this is where the British people are at the moment. So let's just get into the stats quite quickly.
Yeah.
Regarding universal credit, the number of foreign nationals on universal credit is estimated to be about 1.3 million people, right? Yeah. That's not a small amount of people at all. Right. And that's actually increased by 40% just over the last 3 years. And if you look at the overall cost of it, not just with universal credit, but with other benefits as well, if there's a foreign-born national inside just one household, that's costing taxpayers upwards of £1 billion a month, which is like £12 billion a year, which is more than enough to take a penny off income tax, or even scrap inheritance tax in its entirety, meaning that small businesses and family farms won't have to be going out of business. So I think that, actually this is a relatively bold proposal, but the question is, Mike, whether they have the will and the knowledge of how to actually implement it.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? Because an awful lot of the time we get told by HMRC and others in civil service jobs that, we can't really change anything because it costs too much money to change the system. The administration costs alone mean that it's actually better if we just keep paying out all this money, which I've always believed to be a complete shibboleth. There must be a time at which the government of this country can take a grip of the public finances and say, no, look, this is what we're going to do. You say it's going to cost X, make it cost Y, because that's what you do in business.
Yeah, totally. And also, I think the problem is that the civil service and the sort of wider state, I mean, we're running a campaign at the moment called Britain's Quangos Uncovered, which reveals how many politicians that we elect actually don't have all that much power at all, because they've siphoned off power years after years after years to unelected bureaucrats and bodies that many people have never even heard of, which, by the way, Mike, me and you and your listeners pay for via our taxes, despite the fact that they have no democratic oversight or accountability at all. And I think if Reform's serious about this plan, they need to look at wider civil service reforms and wider Quango reforms so that they can actually push these things through, because I think for many years, Mike, there's been a sort of a radical shift in people's views on migration, to the extent that people actually now want the abolition of indefinite leave to remain. They want foreign nationals to not get access to the welfare state or even the National Healthcare Service. And actually that's where the centre ground is. And if the civil service and the wider state is not on side with the British people, then that raises questions about who they're there to serve.
Well, exactly right. And so in terms of the sort of time frame that Nigel Farage explained yesterday, how sort of credible is that?
Well, I think the time frame is still a little bit loose. I mean, the 234 billion figure has actually been disputed slightly by the very people who actually came up with the figure in the first place, and said that actually it needs to be revised. But putting that to one side for the moment, I think that if this is over the course of maybe a parliament or even two parliaments, I think that could be a realistic plan. I don't think we should get too excited with the idea that in 1 year suddenly the government will be able to save 234 billion, because I think that is slightly for the birds. But nevertheless, there are great costs that can be made here, especially on the welfare front, and also in regards to low-skilled migrants, Mike, because low-skilled migrants, say if you're a low-skilled migrant coming in at the age of 25 and you stay until pension age, you're costing taxpayers around £150,000 a year, and actually this goes up to around 1 million if you live until 90. So low-skilled migration has, not just unemployment, but low-skilled migration is costing taxpayers quite a lot of money every single year, and I think, quite frankly, the British people have had enough of it, and they're right to do so.
Yeah, and the other thing that Nigel Farage is very sort of, cognizant of and very good at is influencing other parties like the government, because he's already made the Labour government move on immigration status, on immigration numbers, on immigration policy. So will this have that same effect, do you think, on Keir Starmer? He'll have to find different ways of saving money. If he doesn't like these, he's still going to have to find ways to match the savings.
Yeah, well, let's see if that actually happens. I mean, Keir Starmer attempted to save some money with welfare cuts just a few months ago, and we saw what an absolute mess that was because various of his backbenchers refused to toe the party line. I mean, his new plan, where they've actually only put about 2 or 3 illegal migrants there, saying it's some sort of huge success, when in reality it's a bit of a fluke, despite the fact that we've given millions and millions of pounds to France over the last few years to try and get these deals organised. Look, I'm all in favour of the Everton window shifting on this issue, and of the other political parties want to get in line. that's good, because actually, Mike, on a more serious and fundamental point, I think there has been a democratic deficit between politicians and the people on this issue for quite a long time, where the people have constantly voted for political parties that have said they will reduce migration in all of its forms, and yet, especially with the last Conservative government, you saw migration, this touted Boriswave, going through the roof to the extent that now, we have a burgeoning population, public services are under strain, and it's costing taxpayers billions and billions of pounds every single year. So I think that if other parties start to realise this, that could actually fix the democratic deficit between the people and the politicians in a decent time.
Yeah, it's definitely time for that. Good to see you. William Yarwood, spokesman from the Taxpayers Alliance. Thank you very much indeed.